Hello, Aquarius. Welcome to your monthly zodiac reading for the month of July 2025. We have a lot to unpack this month, so let's not waste any time. As always, we are going to pull an overall energy theme for the month. We will pull tarot for each week, go over the astrological transits, clarify those messages with more tarot, as well as wrap it up with some additional oracle guidance. So let's see what Aquarius energy needs to know for the month of July. What does Aquarius energy need to know for the month of July? It is time to take action. Very much time to take action. We have a lot of retrograde energy that's occurring within the sign of Aries. And then here we have Aries energy at play. Aries is very driven. It's very forward. Aries sits in your third house. This is your house of communication, learning, siblings and cousins, right? This is also your house of like early education, thinking, and communication. So let's see what the tarot has to say. We have several retrogrades occurring within this month. So the energy is really going to feel like it's going to come to a halt. But I think a lot of us are actually going to be relieved that that's what's happening. So I'm grateful for that. Here in the first week, Page of Swords, Messenger, communication. Here in the second week, the Knight of Swords. You are really going for it. Here in the third week, the Queen of Swords. And the Nine of Pentacles in reverse here in the last week. Okay, so the Page of Swords here in the first week, pages are messengers of the tarot. They are apprentices, right? So this could be communicating something that you need to say. Again, your third house is being activated with Neptune going retrograde. Also with one of your ruling planets making a huge shift into the sign of communication this month. The Page of Swords is there. And it's almost like you're finally taking that action to saying what's on your mind or talking about these ideas maybe that you've been having. Here in the first week, Venus, the planet of love, money, beauty, aesthetic, and value, is going to be making a conjunction with your ruling planet, Uranus. Uranus is known as the Great Awakener or the Great Disruptor, depending on how you want to look at him. But it's going to be happening right before she moves into the sign of Gemini. Gemini for you guys sits in your fifth house, which is your house of self-expression. This governs things like what you wear, what you say, how you act with people, like the presentation that you give when others look at you. That is your self-expression, right? So it could be that you're actually going to step forward, kind of take center stage, and really start talking about what you think, really start talking about what it is that you're feeling. Here, we also have Neptune going retrograde. Neptune is the planet of illusion, delusion, spirituality, dreams, and infinite potential. Is going to go retrograde within the sign of Aries, again, your third house. So this could be a sense of like, it almost feels like the fog is lifting. Essentially, I know that feels a little counterintuitive because people will be like, well, isn't retrograde, isn't it like the things are foggy, things are slowing down? Yes, but when Neptune is at its full potential, when it's driving this force, it's kind of dampening Aries' fire. So it could be that I keep imagining like fog being sucked back up versus being pushed back out, right? That fog is going away, and so this fire could really amp up. Here in the second week, the Knight of Swords, this is taking action on speaking the truth, taking action on being that defender, that protector. The Knight of Swords is fearless in his approach. And again, this is thoughts, ideas, and communication here. We're looking at the mind. So really taking action on either learning what it is that you want to learn, or finally just fully speaking what it is that you want to say. Here in the second week, Uranus, your ruling planet, is moving into the sign of Gemini until 2033. This is full-blown self-expression. This is full-blown your fifth house, self-expression, children, creativity, inspiration, one-off romantic love affairs, right? So this is a lot of action that's occurring. So Uranus is moving into that sign until 2033. We are also going to experience a full moon within the sign of Capricorn. Full moons are a buildup of energy, and they will illuminate the things that we need to see so that we can ultimately release them. Capricorn is hitting your 12th house. This is your house of mental health, your house of spirituality, your subconscious, and your house of like isolation. So it feels like you're kind of coming out of this isolation. You're coming out of this period of being like, I am done not saying what I need to say. I am done not taking action on the things that I feel are important. Here in the second or the third week, we have the Queen of Swords in reverse. When she's in reverse, this can be sometimes people-pleasing tendencies. This can be a little too reliant on others to tell her what to do. Maybe she's a little too apt to worry what other people think. But for you guys, given the other energy, it feels like the theme of her being cold and cutting right to the point when she speaks is more of what's happening here. Because when she's in reverse, she can be very cold and calculating. She's not hurtful. She's just brutally honest. Brutally honest. And it can be cut like hurtful. Swords cut like a knife. You know what I mean? Words cut like a knife. And we've got a sword here. So when she speaks, when she's in reverse, she is very cold and she's very calculating with what she says. Right? So it could be here in this third week with Saturn is going to go retrograde. The coldest planet is going to go retrograde within the sign of Aries, your third house communication. So you could be very, very either reflective of what you're wanting to say, or you could be very cold with what you're saying. So just be mindful of that. We also have Mercury going retrograde within the sign of Leo. This is your seventh house. Maybe long-term romantic partners, you're just a little cold when it comes to that. Mercury going retrograde can prompt miscommunication. Okay, so just be a little mindful that when it comes to how you're communicating with others, if you don't want it to be cold, pay attention to that. Okay, here in the last week, the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. It can be regaining a sense of self or regaining your own independence. This could also mean that maybe there needs to be a focus on finances, health, relationships, material possessions. There needs to be more of a focus on that. This can also represent that you need to get out and ground your energy and re-ground yourself in what actually matters. Or what you actually value. This is the week that Leo season begins. Anytime we step into a new season, those themes and qualities of that sign take center stage. So that means that that house takes center stage. Again, for you guys, this is your seventh house. That is happening on the 22nd. On the 24th, we have a new moon within the sign of Leo. New moons are a blank slate or an opportunity to set intentions and to set manifestations. With you guys, this is your seventh house, business contracts, romantic partners. With Mercury going retrograde and with this happening in your seventh house, you could be ending a relationship or just ultimately telling someone that you're not interested, that there are other things that you want to focus on. And for that person, it could come across a little cold. But for you guys, it's more about just speaking the truth. Okay? Because you're like, I need to regain some sense of independence here, and I'm not going to do that if I'm attached to another person. So it could be that with your seventh house, you're focusing more on the relationships that actually matter. On the 30th, Chiron, the wounded healer, is going to go retrograde within the sign of Aries. This is going to have us reevaluating these wounds that we have around our identity and around our sense of self. On the 31st, Venus is moving into the sign of Cancer. We could feel more protective of our loved ones. We could feel more protective of the things that we value. We could want to nurture the things that we value more and just ultimately nurture the things that really give us life and the things that we find the most important. Cancer for you guys sits in your 6th house. So this is nurturing yourself on a day-to-day basis. Your health, your wealth, your finances, right? Your health in relationships, your health in your physical health, in your health in your financial state. On the 31st, we also have a Mercury cazimi happening. Cazimis occur when a planet comes into close proximity with the sun. The sun's light begins to amplify the energy of that planet. For this planet, this is Mercury, thoughts, ideas, communication. But remember, Mercury is retrograde. So it could be that there is this enlightenment that occurs. However, it's more internal and it's more reflective. Let's see what clarifying messages we can get. Here in the first week, the Page of Swords, the Moon in reverse, and the Ten of Wands. I would, if you're feeling inclined to speak and use your voice, I would be mindful that you're listening to your intuition. Don't speak from the mind, speak from the heart instead. We have the Ten of Wands here, and this is going to allow you, if you're communicating on something that is ultimately kind of making you unhappy, or ultimately something that you feel like is not in your path, not part of your destiny, then it's time to put down that burden and to really just say goodbye, speak your truth, say what you need to say in regards to these things. Again, Venus conjunct Uranus in Gemini, two energies of communication around relationships, money and value and beauty and aesthetic. Okay. Here in the third or second week, we have the Knight of Swords, the Ace of Cups, pursuing a new beginning of emotional fulfillment, and the Four of Wands. That is very nice. Fearlessly pursuing what brings you emotional stability. That's like the easiest way to do that. Pursuing new beginnings and emotion of stability. Like that feels very, very plain and simple, especially with Uranus moving into your 5th house. And for some of you, maybe you're saying goodbye to an old person, to someone you're no longer interested in, because there is someone brand new that you are interested in getting to know. You're interested in getting to know, and you could meet this person at a wedding or at a get together with the Four of Wands. So just be mindful of that. For others, this is again pursuing emotional fulfillment that creates stability and happiness, not just for yourself, but for others. Here, the Queen of Swords in reverse, the Knight of Wands, and the Seven of Cups. Yeah, the Queen of Swords, maybe speaking to another person or just being very like quick and to the point, because the Knight of Wands is there like pursuing this freedom. The Knight of Wands is action, and this is about growth and freedom and excitement and what inspires you. And it could be that, again, people are, because you speaking that truth, because you're fired up about something, creates a sense of disillusionment with other people. They're like, oh. So if you don't want to give that impression to others, I would be a little mindful of how about how cold you are when you speak, because the Queen of Swords, when she's direct, she speaks clearly, but she speaks compassionately. Like she is the epitome of emotional intelligence. She understands that her words will have an impact, but she also doesn't lie, right? So she speaks clearly, but she speaks compassionately. When she's in reverse and she's speaking, I just heard out of tongue. Like she's speaking, it's a very quick wit, and it's not as intentional. It's speaking more because maybe she's passionate, fired up about something, and it creates this clarity or this disillusionment for others. So just be mindful of that. Here in the last week, the Nine of Pentacles in reverse, the King of Cups in reverse, and the Eight of Swords in reverse. Okay. So because your seventh and your fifth house is being activated quite heavily, it feels as if, for some of you, because it's a collective reading, I can only address some of you, but some of you are going to be saying goodbye to a romantic partner that maybe you were just speaking with, maybe trying to get to know to see if it worked, but not really feeling that spark, and actively pursuing someone that you do feel that spark with. Someone that you might actually want to build a future with. Okay? Because here in the last week, the Nine of Pentacles, the King of Cups in reverse, you could be saying goodbye to someone who is a little bit of a drama king, somebody who's a little bit too in their emotions and it doesn't feel very stable. So you're saying goodbye to that, trying to regain a sense of independence, and it's going to feel like this release. It's going to feel like you're no longer burdened or imprisoned by the idea of that, by the idea of having to do the thing, like feelings of obligation, right? You're releasing yourself of that. For others, this fourth week is going to present itself as really, really feeling like you're needing to, maybe feeling very, very ungrounded. Your emotions are a little bit all over the place, and being a little overly self-critical as a result. Okay, but that's an easy thing to change. That's an easy thing to turn around. All we have to do is just ground your energy this week and allow yourself to really focus on that emotional regulation. Let's get that oracle guidance, and then we can wrap it up. We are almost done. Let's see what the oracle has to say. Multiple streams. It feels like there's a lot of communication, a lot of information that is flowing in, and it could create a sense of anxiety, but that's okay, because all you really need to do is listen to your intuition. All you need to do is speak on whatever your heart is truly leading you to do. Speak on what your heart is truly leading you to do. Again, for some of you, you're going to have multiple people, I think, reach out, maybe multiple love interest here in this first week. So just be mindful of that. Here in the second week, murky waters. Even though things feel very celebratory, you're trying to create emotional stability. It can still feel a little uncertain. Maybe you feel like, I'm not quite sure I'm doing the right thing, or maybe I'm moving too fast. If you feel like things are moving too fast, again, between you and another person, slow things down. Slow things down. You don't want to create murky, you don't want to create that uncertainty, and you don't want to ultimately put yourself in a position that you have to back out of. Gentleness. Be gentle. You can speak your truth, but you don't have to do so in a way that's hurtful to others. You know that. You know that. So even though you're feeling a little bit passionate because maybe you see the truth of something, be gentle. Okay? Turn the Queen of Swords direct. Speak with clarity and compassion. here in this last week, disconnect. Disconnect from whatever is not serving you, disconnect from whatever is causing you a lot of anxiety, grief. Disconnect from something, whatever makes you feel like you're just bound and trapped, things that you feel obligated to. I think that's really what the new moon in Leo was going to provide you an opportunity to do. So I truly hope this helped. I hope you guys have an incredible month, and we will see you next time.